Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. A very warm welcome from London in the UK. Here is today's news about electric cars and sustainable transport. My name is Martin Lee, and this is your EV News Daily for Wednesday, 14th of February 2018. Coming up on the podcast today, we'll talk about the new Volkswagen Touareg, Daimler investing in China, and Tesla running on a diesel. But first of all, the world's leading cities for EV adoption and support has been ranked by the World Economic Forum and Bain and Company in a brand new report. Amongst those, London's up there because of the Transport for London, which runs the public transports here in the capital. They've had some change to the licensing for the taxis at the beginning of the year. It means that all new taxis will need to be able to run on zero emissions, ZEV capable. 150 rapid charging points are also planned in London before the end of 2018. Now, talking of Oslo, they got an honourable mention as well, of course, in Norway. Norway leading the way in many ways with electric cars. A fleet of 1,200 public vehicles using electricity by 2020. Well, Berlin's on the list for offering charging stations for electric vehicles and inductive charging for fleet operation. I mentioned for Buenos Aires, Montreal and Santiago for the electrification of public transport with electric buses. In Dortmund, last mile delivery companies are being encouraged to turn their fleets EV. Also Hong Kong getting a mention, and of course Los Angeles for the Los Angeles Police Department switching to 260 fleet vehicles with their EVs. Also in there, London, Oslo, Paris and San Francisco as well, of course, with the driverless tests and trials that are happening with EVs in San Francisco. Well, some recommendations from the report as well. Now, to help EVs and the revolution continue, they need to prioritise high-use vehicles such as fleet use and coming autonomous cars. So stories all over the world of support for EVs. In China, Daimler are making a move financially, investing in the electric vehicle subsidiary of their Chinese partner, the BAIC Motor Group. And just a reminder, by the way, for any other companies outside of China, companies to invest in China, they need to partner up with a domestic maker. That's the rules over there. Taking part of a 5% interest in a subsidiary of BAIC. Now, the Beijing New Energy Vehicle Company is China's largest manufacturer of full pure EVs, of BEVs. Last year, pure electric vehicles grew 98% year on year to 103,199 of them sold. And Daimler taking just a small chunk of that as they look east. Now, Volkswagen have always done well in the SUV market, and in Beijing, on March the 23rd, they'll be unveiling the third generation of their Touareg, looking to increase in technology, in design, connectivity, as all cars are these days, especially cars at the top end of the market. They sell their Touaregs around £70,000. That's 97,000 US dollars or 79,000 euro. You're up against big Mercedes and Range Rovers in that price range, so you have to do something very special. And increasingly, if those cars want to be driven into cities in a few years' time, people are looking at protecting their investment and ensuring that they are zero emission capable, at least for a few miles, which is why the third generation Touareg that will be unveiled in Beijing soon will have, and I must admit, the pretty standard high-level SUV setup, which is a 4-cylinder, 2-litre turbocharged engine coupled with an electric motor, and that will give the range of around 30-32. That's what we've seen with the big Mercs and the big Range Rovers as well. You can switch into electric mode if you're heading into the city to avoid those congestion charges, or just even to be allowed to drive into some areas in coming years, but you've still got a big internal combustion engine if that's what you want inside your big SUV. Now, what about a Tesla that's powered by diesel? Okay, so a slightly clickbaity headline, but bear with me on this. In Australia, they've conducted a bit of an experiment. They've taken a big Tesla Model S and pitched it against a brand new, lightweight, small family Volvo. So we've all heard, if you've ever talked to someone, maybe as an EV evangelist yourself, or you've just talked about diesel versus electric, some people will always come back with the argument, well, the electricity they produce in power stations is dirty anyway, so it doesn't matter where you burn the fossil fuels, you may as well burn it in your car. So this was the experiment. They took a Volvo D4, weighs much less than a Tesla and has less power, and pitched it against a Tesla Model S P85D. So, first of all, they charged the Tesla from a diesel three-phase generator, making sure that the tank was completely full on the generator to begin with, and then again at the end of it. Now, enough energy was added to the Tesla's car battery to cover the equivalent of 100 kilometers. Then they topped up the Volvo with fuel and ensured they measured where the fuel level got to. Then took both cars out at the same time, so the driving route was the same, the driving conditions were the same for 100 Ks. They mixed highway and suburban driving, air conditioners turned on. Now, when the cars came back, finally topped the Volvo back up to the fuel level that it was at when they left. So how did the two compare? Well, the Volvo recorded a consumption of 4.8 litres over 104 kilometres. The Tesla, which was full of electricity from a big old dirty diesel generator, that required only 4.4 litres of diesel to cover the same distance. So even if you fill your electric car with the most dirty electricity that you can imagine, it still does better. It's still more efficient than an internal combustion engine. Well, here in the UK, in fact, one of the debates going on everywhere is where do you put rapid chargers? Petrol stations or filling stations. It seems to be an obvious place to put them because that's where we've been taking our cars to for the last 100 years or so. Here in the UK, InstaVolt has agreed a deal to put its rapid chargers into 18 new forecourts in England. DC rapid chargers, you can use your contactless credit and debit card. You get charged 35 pence per kilowatt hour, which isn't too bad. At home at the moment, I get charged 15 pence per kilowatt hour on a flat rate for 24 hours a day. You can do economy 7 where you get cheap rate here in the UK, which is about 5 to 6 pence per kilowatt hour overnight, which is the cheapest way to fill your EV, by the way. No connection fee to connect up to these rapids. They're in Bristol, Bedfordshire, Exeter, Plymouth, Epping, Shoreham in West Sussex, Coventry and Nuneaton in Warwickshire. The debate being, where is the best place to put a rapid charger? And it's probably not at a petrol station or a filling station because some people are saying that actually rapids would be much better at things like out-of-town shopping centres or retail parks, retail villages where you go and do your shopping for maybe 45 minutes and then you can come back to at least an 80% full EV. Other people saying that, look, garage forecourts are unused space at the moment and an ideal place to put rapid chargers. Now, an interesting story here coming via Bloomberg today, which is more proof that cars are becoming ever more like technology, like our mobile phones, than they are really cars, actually. CES has been gaining in popularity, what used to be called the Consumer Electronics Show, now CES. And now Mercedes have confirmed they will skip the Detroit Auto Show, the world-famous Detroit Auto Show, in 2019, as many more manufacturers participate in tech conferences to unveil their tech cars rather than old-fashioned auto shows. Now, the chief exec, the CEO of Daimler, Dieter Zetsche, was a speaker at CES a couple of years ago in 2015, Ford Motor Company CEO Jim Hackett and Toyota's president, Akio Toyoda, were both keynote speakers at this year's CES. More proof that cars are more closely aligned to technology than anything else. And finally, looking back at the Auto Expo 2018 in India and looking at the different things that were announced there in terms of electrified transport, looking at the cars which were unveiled for the Indian market. Hyundai took along the Ioniq and their Kona prototype. Maruti Suzuki showed off an e-Survivor concept. Honda showed their sports EV and new V concepts. Tata Motors showed off the Tiger and the Tiago, which are existing models that they're just going to electrify with a powertrain they're buying in. And Mahindra showed off all sorts of concepts with rather long and difficult names to pronounce. And what about electrified bikes as well? There was loads of those on. 22 Motors showed off their Flow bike. Motorcycle showed off their Renegade Thor bike, with very few specs that I can find on this, but a brilliant name. So, not that you're buying a bike on its name, but it's a good name, right? What have you got? The Renegade Thor. TVS unveiled their Creon with a 0-60 sprint in 5 seconds and an 80% battery charge in an hour. And Honda showed off their PCX electric bike with detachable batteries that you can swap out and swap in if you are constantly on the road. I mean, delivering pizzas or something, I'm guessing. That kind of use where you can swap just a battery in and battery out and off you go again with a full charge. And what about that's a really, really big bike that'll do 0 to 100 Ks. That's about 0 to 62 mile an hour. Well, the M Flux 1 was unveiled with production delivery starting in 2019 and a top speed of 200 Ks on that very special looking electric superbike. Batteries are taking over everywhere. Well, coming up tomorrow on the podcast, we're going to take a little in-depth look at hydrogen versus electric cars. Obviously, EVs, many more of those on the roads everywhere than hydrogen vehicles. Is hydrogen the way forward, though, for EVs? So we will take a little look at some of the increasing evidence of that on tomorrow's show. Thank you for listening today. Hope you enjoyed it as always. We'd love to spread the word. Please do share this with one person who might be interested. Listen to all of the previous podcasts on iTunes. Whilst you're there, subscribe for free and get them automatically. It would mean a lot as well to me if you could just leave a quick rate and review, quick star rating on iTunes. If you have an Amazon Echo, this is new and exciting. You can be one of the first in the world to download our brand new Alexa skill. Search the Amazon app or your Alexa app for EV News Daily. 3 separate words and you'll find it. And then you can have us as your flash briefing along with your other news providers. Say hi on Twitter at EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day. And I'll catch you tomorrow.